Hey, Janet.
Hey, hi PJ. Hi everybody. This is Janet Livingstone from Alchemistic, and I am very pleased to be joined today by my colleague, Chief of Research at Alchemistic. That is Patricia Johnson, who goes by PJ. And Patricia has been digging way deep into ketamine practices and emotional support for ketamine and all things related to ketamine. And today we're probably going to talk about a variety of topics, but one that's come up is that actually there is some very recent research. Actually, I believe it came out this month, called Patients' Voices on Ketamine for Treatment Resistant Depression, a narrative review of qualitative perspectives. So this is qualitative research on ketamine for people dealing with serious or treatment resistant depression out of the Faculty of Medicine, Department of Psychiatry at the University in Gdansk, Poland. And let me just set you up here. I'm going to read one of the paragraphs from the intro from the actual research itself, just to set us up, and then we're going to talk about various aspects of it. So it says, quote, in recent years, ketamine has emerged as a rapid acting intervention capable of producing antidepressant effects within hours and sustaining improvement for several days. Randomized controlled trials, and large scale real world cohorts have consistently demonstrated its short term efficacy and acceptable safety profile in treatment resistant depression. Nevertheless, quantitative outcomes alone cannot capture how patients experience and interpret ketamine treatment, nor how these experiences shape engagement, perceived legitimacy, and long term acceptability. Qualitative research offers a necessary complement to efficacy focused approaches by illuminating patients' lived experiences of treatment. PJ, what are you taking from all this?
Yeah, I have to say, I was so excited to see this study come out because I believe that the world of medicine is moving toward more individualized care and out of more homogenized metadata, thousands of people, this is the treatment, when the fact is, we are all very unique. We all probably have one medicine in our life that we're an outlier to, that we don't respond typically. And I like the idea of qualitative data as it has the chance to capture all the nuances that can happen within one psychedelic experience. One ketamine experience can take you through a myriad of emotions, memories, and states. And to summarize all that into check boxes, boom, 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 is like taking something that's so complex, so vast, putting it in a little box. I guarantee all of us, all of you listeners, are very unique and deserve a lot more nuanced awareness of your experiences.
Yeah, and I think it's so valuable that we're finally getting more qualitative data. I'm sensing somewhat of a shift or adding more qualitative data because, especially with psychedelic assisted treatments of various kinds, the qualitative experience, the unique experience of each person is, um, it can determine really whether they take a full treatment, right? How much benefit they get. It even affects their relationship with the psychotherapist they're working with or with the medical personnel they're working with.
Mhm.
I mean, it's sort of, both directions, I would say. And we've all been there, right? Some of us have allergies, and we know that one antihistamine can work far better than another, and we don't know why, but that's just our reality. And
Yeah.
that, in my brain, that also leads me to point out that medical personnel really, when they listen, the more they listen, the better they can treat their patients, because these nuances are very, very important. And also, the more they listen, the more trust there is going to be felt by the patient.
Right. And I think you hit on something really, really important, that having trust, even if it's with your receptionist, improves your treatment outcomes. That feeling of, wow, I'm seen as a human, I'm supported, people care about this vast experience I went through. And, building trust can be difficult if a clinic is running, really running tightly and having to put through many people through treatments. And then you're losing some minutes there for that trust to start gelling and building. And, I anticipate, and this is what we're all about in alchemistic.care, is to find ways to bridge all of that and welcome in this much needed trust.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's think about the differences in between a good experience, a trustful, welcoming, compassionate experience, and one that's not. So if you go when I go to my primary care, I may land on a receptionist who's having a good day, right? Who is
Yeah.
willing to make small talk with me. And if they're willing to make eye contact, then yeah, I'm likely to feel fine. Like, even if I'm anticipating something unpleasant that I have to discuss with the doctor, or I'm afraid of getting results, whatever, that first impression makes a difference. And then, of course, during care, especially when you're going to receive something like ketamine, where you're going to be very vulnerable as a patient, right? As a client.
Mhm.
Being under the influence of ketamine is a vulnerable experience. It's dissociative a lot of times, or maybe most of the time. You can speak to that better than I can. But in my experience, yeah, you may feel sort of a slow rise, and then there may be a period where you don't have much memory, where you really were not very connected, and that's part of the therapeutic journey.
Mhm.
But to be
It's,
alone going through that,
yeah.
or really not received by someone who's trained on how to
Mhm.
listen, that can be tough.
Or uninformed.
Yeah.
I think uninformed can be very challenging. And again, this element of trust, you can handle a challenging situation, a feeling of, whoa, I just lost myself for a second, but I trust this person in the room with me,
Yeah.
helps you navigate that as opposed to, whoa, something just happened that was real, discombobulating, and I'm alone in this room. I don't have
Yeah.
anybody to hold my hand or to be present with that. And then we're moving into the aftercare, which I think this research is going to start to highlight the folks that have, not only the preparation and then the treatment, but this important leg of being able to discuss in detail and really slowly work through what your experience was is so key. And oftentimes you can find in studies that leg is dropped from the research. It's not part of it. And um, we're at alchemistic.care hoping to extend a helping hand and usher some folks into this idea and get more consistent support, more trust built because these everybody wants that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, it may be that there are clients who don't know that it's beneficial for them, so they're not going to ask for it, but they will benefit from
Yeah.
it if it's provided. And so it's in everybody's interest. I mean, this is why we're so focused on this, as you point out, that it's in everybody's interest to provide consistent emotional support throughout the process, from prep through treatment into integration and beyond, because we're dealing with the human brain, which is very, very complex. So this is a process. And the idea of wraparound care is key here. Clinics will see better outcomes with clients if they are clinics who are, functioning through Google, which basically everybody is. They're liable to get better reviews.
Hmm.
Clients are going to feel better, right? They're going
Hmm.
to put up less resistance due to fear, right? If you don't trust the person you're in the room with, or that person who brought you to the room didn't say much and then left and didn't say whether they would be back while
Hmm.
you're having an infusion, right? You may feel pretty afraid. People don't know, especially in the first treatment, people don't know what it's going to feel like. And, I study IFS and I know that within our psyche, there are plenty of protective mechanisms that can influence the actual experience that we have when taking psychedelic medicine.
Yeah, what you're highlighting there is a point in which oftentimes you see different points where treatment just ceased, that feeling of being abandoned or having something come up that was just super overwhelming is enough for some folks to go, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
And right, and keeping the treatment protocol going is also very important for outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so how many, let's illuminate this a little bit. I'm curious, in your experience, how many infusions kind of on average are ketamine focused clinics offering these days for a full-on treatment?
Now I'm not a super expert from
It's
what
okay. In your
whatever I've
experience.
in my experience, what I've encountered is six infusion treatment that can go over like 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes they'll do two treatments a week. Also that they like to top load it so that you might do twice a week, and then space it out once a week and once a week.
Hmm.
I think, in my opinion, the 6 week treatment cycle is arbitrary and designed toward maybe, left over from clinical trial studies, because those have to be finite and they have to show results and they have to be financially advantageous. You can't do 8 month, 9 month, year outcome follow-up studies without the money. So what happens is it seems like a lot of folks, just to be safe, just stick within that initial clinical protocol, which may or may not be accurate for your unique self, your
Yeah.
unique life, your unique, that may not be a box that's where you can fit. And so
Yeah.
more nuance, the qualitative, checking in and getting more data points and understanding things that can happen and that sometimes waft through a day or two after can be a little challenging. Oh, I'm a little more emotional than I'm used to. Then we can say, hey, that's absolutely normal. It's part of the healing process, for instance.
Right, right. And that knowledge and transferring that knowledge to the client is so important to help them feel okay about what's happening to them and stick with it.
Yeah.
Right? As you say, a lot of people, if they don't have a good first experience, I think it's very common for people to say, "No, that's not for me."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It triggers. It triggers. It can trigger when we know that the medicine is very safe. We know from its history and its original use on the battlefield and as
In
a
infant
veterinary
surgery.
medicine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Infant surgery.
It's
I mean, wow.
yeah.
Yep.
It is really safe.
Yep. Well, okay. This is it's it's just
It's
I can't
always exciting.
emphasize. I know there's
Yeah.
so much happening.
So much
Well,
more
right,
to
because
talk
this
about.
this
Well,
research is new.
uh-huh.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I think this is a topic we'll keep on picking up. We'll be on top of it as this field unfolds, which is It's so exciting to bear witness to. Um,
Right.
yeah.
It is. This is a revolution. We are in the middle of a revolution. I mean, it's not only about ketamine, clearly, but it's a revolution in mental health treatment.
Yeah.
That may be a hyperbolic statement, but I believe it. You know,
No, I've heard it, before. I mean, before we were all monoamine, SSRI, SNRIs, that, and we were locked in.
antidepressants. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only treatment we could think of. And that is more of a bandage, right?
Yep.
Treating the symptoms, keeping everything under control, you can function in life. Ketamine offers the opportunity for real transformation with the support that these insights can really become keys to changes in habits and ways you approach life. And therein lies a more durable treatment outcome.
Right. So it can be inherently more sustainable,
Hmm.
right? Sustainable benefits.
Yeah.
So, what about? I know you were talking earlier that a different conversation I had with you had to do with the definition of treatment resistant depression, which
Yeah.
is a term that gets really thrown around. I just wanted to throw that out there because a lot of times, this is the premise for why a client would come to a ketamine clinic.
And often a clinic will ask, have you been diagnosed with this? Now, the thing is, I did a bit of a dive into it, and no one agrees on the definition, and
Oh.
it seems a little arbitrary. The FDA has one definition that's two different classes of drugs that didn't work over one episode of depression. So if you
Mm.
were depressed at 15, got out of it 26, and now you're 61, and that changes the definition. It's interesting, and um, that ketamine is seen as the last line of treatment, I think, is also bearing a lot of weight on clients. They're told that it's a last line. And I think that kind of pressure, needing that magic bullet, needing that incredible outcome, is so hard to carry in when you're struggling with these things into a treatment. And I hope that we see way more support, less labeling,
Yeah.
and more
Yep.
self-discovery. And I see that as changing as well. And interesting enough, psychotherapy failure is not considered technically, from my bit of research. I think some psychotherapists may think this, but or believe this to be true, but that even if you were in therapy for 15 years and you couldn't get better, that is technically not considered treatment resistant depression. In order to get to
Right.
that diagnosis, you have to medicalize your condition and
Wow.
try medication with it. And
Right.
I don't think everyone follows that, but I find it really fascinating, and it speaks to the level of power FDA and insurance has over our
For
medical
sure.
care.
For
And
sure, for sure.
yeah.
And I think that that's overlaid by the kind of general culture of medicine, right? It's very hard for the culture of a field to change. It's a very slow process. And when it's really all about medications, because that is, right, that is, as you say, that's the central point of the regulatory process. It's the financial value
Hmm.
point,
And the studies
right?
are all done with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And that's despite the fact that with modern neuroscience and
Uh-huh.
what's become a kind of very large field of like popular neuroscience, we know that communication between people, live, and relationships are the thing that can have the most significant effect on our mental health long term during our lifetimes.
Hmm.
Right here, I would cite the Harvard Happiness Study that's been going on since 1936.
Oh, cool. I have to check that out.
1936. Yep. Yeah. Imagine that this is in the last couple of years they've come out with some very, very strong conclusions, very clear that positive social and intimate relationships are the determining that's the number one contributing factor to long-term happiness and health.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think I've heard this too, where you have like five social groups that you interact with. It increases your happiness. And in that treatment container, there's such potential for warm connection that can
Yeah,
fortify all of this.
exactly. I mean, if you have a therapist for, as you said, 15 years or 10 or even 3, I mean, that's a relationship,
Yeah.
right? And if that activity isn't valued by the field or is, sometimes sort of commercialized, like now everybody's talking about it, you need therapy and you need this and that. But those are important relationships that have a huge effect on it. And for that not to be included in the factors that mitigate depression, this doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, you're making me think that my dream studies, oh, in a perfect world, we would, look at outcomes, but not only outcomes with, warm interactions within the office, but outcomes with supportive, professionals outside of, and then extending, like we're looking toward supporting community and families so that they
Absolutely.
can really be brought up to speed and be in support of the clients as well,
Yeah,
increasing that container.
absolutely. I mean, it's logical if you think about it, and that's really why we're here. Because what imagine the potential for a great outcome if you come to ketamine therapy informed, supported by your family and loved ones because there's information available. You come to a clinic or a prescriber who understands the importance of emotional support and of preparation, right? The process, the wraparound style of care. And you go and you get an infusion, and the nurse practitioner or the person who is with you is committed to supporting you emotionally. And then they make sure that you have somebody else when you leave the clinic who will
Hmm.
support you emotionally, whether it's a coach or, you know, an alternative healer or a psychologist or, right, somebody who cares about your well-being. That is that is a beautiful, comprehensive, complex, compassionate, all the COMs
Hmm.
experience, right? Which,
Hmm.
since we're talking about mental health, to me, as a layperson, it's much more likely to have a really good impact on you as opposed to feeling shame, having to hide the fact that you're coming to a clinic
Hmm.
and maybe, that clinic's really busy and maybe the staff doesn't have time to talk to you or to
Hmm.
sit with you. Maybe they'd really like to, right?
And what,
There's so many factors here. Go ahead.
yeah, what you're highlighting to me also is that some people can privilege the medicine, think that it's the magic bullet. It will alter your brain chemistry, and I will be fixed. And that puts so much pressure on the whole experience, that gap. But when you add community, you add connection, the medicine becomes a participant, a collaborator in the whole healing process, and you're less needing this magic bullet to kind of fix you when you have this whole sea of, support and it becomes a facilitation device, so
Yeah,
to speak. Yeah.
right. This it becomes holistic care. It is a piece of holistic care. Well, listen, I think we'll end on that note. It's been so great talking to you. Thank you so much for bringing your
Yeah.
wisdom and all your reading and stuff. So we'll talk again. Okay. And to our readers, go to alchemistic.care if you'd like to know more about us. And beautiful holidays. We're filming this at the end of 2025, but it will be up for as long as it can be. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.